In the last lecture, we discussed about the atomic mass unit, which was defined as that one atomic mass unit is equal to the 1/12 of the mass of the carbon atom. So one atomic mass unit, it came out to be equal to 1.66 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kgs, and 1 AMU, it is also written as 1 U. So 1 AMU can be simply written as 1 U, and this is equal to 1.66 into 10 raised to power minus 20 kilograms, which is the 1/12 of the mass of one atom of carbon. Now the mass of a proton and neutron in terms of 1 AMU. Now mass of a single proton is equal to 1.6725 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kgs. So this is the mass of a proton in terms of kilogram, and when it is converted in terms of AMU, it is equal to 1.0072766 AMU, or simply U. And mass of neutron is equal to 1.6748 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kgs, and in terms of AMU, this is equal to 1.0086654 U. So this is the mass of a proton and neutron in terms of AMU. We also converted this mass, that is 1.66 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kgs, and we saw that the energy equivalent to 1 AMU is approximately equal to 931 mega electron volt, which is 10 into 10 raised to power 6 electron volts. So this is the energy which is associated with 1 AMU. The next property of the nucleus is the nuclear density. The density is defined as mass per unit volume. So the nuclear density will be equal to mass of the whole nucleus divided by the volume of the nucleus. So that will give us the nuclear density. The mass of the nucleus is found by the total number of particles which are present inside the nucleus times the mass of each particle. That gives us the mass of the whole nucleus. The mass of whole nucleus will be equal to the number of particles, that is the number of nucleons which are present inside the nucleus, times the mass of each nucleon. So that will give you the total mass of the nucleus divided by the volume of the nucleus. So we assume over here that nucleus is almost spherical in shape. So the volume of the nucleus will be equal to 4/3 pi r cube. So r is the radius of the nucleus, and this gives us the volume of the whole nucleus. Now the number of nucleons which are present inside the nucleus is given by the mass number. So this will be equal to capital A, and mass of each nucleon will remain as it is, or you can simply put the mass of the value of the mass of every nucleon. So we can take it as 1.67 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kgs divided by 4/3 pi r cube. Now r radius of a particular nucleus is equal to r naught into a power 1/3. So the radius of a nucleus whose mass number is capital A is given by this formula, where r naught is a constant and r naught is equal to 1.2 Fermi, that is 1.2 into 10 raised to power minus 15 meter. So this is the value of R naught. We simply put the value of capital R and we will get R cube, that is we will get R naught cube times capital A. So you will do the cube on the both sides and you will get this formula. So this will be, over here we can see that capital A, it will cancel with capital A and we are just left with the constant values. And when you evaluate these constant values, this value, it comes out to be equal to 2.9 into 10 raised to power 17 kgs per meter cube. So this is 2.9 into 10 raised to power 17 kilogram per meter cube. So this is the density of the nucleus, and you can see that the density of the nucleus is a constant value. So the nuclear density is almost constant for all the nuclei and is independent of, this is independent of the nucleon number, that is this is independent of mass number or capital A. The next property is the nuclear charge. The charge on the nucleus will be equal to the charge, the sum of the total charge which is present on its constituents. So in the nucleus we know there are Z number of protons and N number of neutrons. So N is equal to capital A minus Z. So Z number of protons and A minus Z number of neutrons that are present in a nucleus. Now we know that the neutron, it is a neutral particle, it does not have any charge. So the charge of the nucleus will be just contributed by the number of protons which are present inside the nucleus. So the charge on a single proton, we know that it is equal to plus E. So E is the charge. E is equal to 1.6 into 10 raised to power minus 19 coulombs. So this is the value of E, and charge on a proton is equal to plus E, and the total charge on the nucleus will be simply equal to plus Z times E, because Z is the total number of protons which are present and neutron, it is a neutral particle. So the charge on the whole nucleus will be just due to the number of protons which are present inside the nucleus. The next property that we are going to study is the total angular momentum of the nucleus, and this is represented by capital I. To find the total angular momentum of a nucleus, we must know the angular momentum of the every particle which this nucleus is composed of. And we know that the nucleus is made up of nucleons, that is there are protons and there are neutrons. So there are neutrons and there are protons. So every neutron, it will have its own angular momentum, and every proton will also have its own angular momentum. So to find the total angular momentum of the nucleus, we must know the angular momentum of the nucleons which are present inside the nucleus. So let's consider a single nucleon. That is, it can be either a proton or it can be a neutron. So for the case of a single nucleon, we know that every nucleon, neutron or proton, it is a fermion. So these particles are fermions, that is the spin angular momentum of these particles takes the value of half h cut. So fermions are the particles that have half integral spin, and since neutron and proton, they also have half integral spin or a multiple of half h cut. So these particles are called as fermions. For the case of a single nucleon, every nucleon will have its orbital angular momentum, that is given by small l. So we are talking about a single nucleon, and every nucleon will have its own orbital angular momentum, which is represented by small l, and these nucleon will also have spin angular momentum, which is represented by s, and s takes values half h cut for the case of neutron and protons. Now this value of l, the small l, this l takes the values which are integral multiples of h cut. That is, it will take values nh cut. It can be either 0 or it can be 1h cut or 2h cut or 3h cut and so on. And s takes value that is just half h cut. Now the orbital angular momentum and the spin angular momentum, these both will couple with each other and will result into the total angular momentum of a single nucleon. So the total angular momentum of a single nucleon, it can be written as small I. So make it clear that the total angular momentum of the whole nucleus is represented by capital I, and the total angular momentum of a single nucleon is represented by small I. So small I, it will take values from L minus S to L plus S. So I will take a values from L minus S to L plus S. But as you know that S has only one value, which is half h cut. So there will be only two values of I, which will be L plus S or it will be L minus S. So these will be the values which will be taken by the total angular momentum of a single nucleon. Since L takes values which are integral multiples of h cut and S takes values, or it has only one value, which is half h cut. So on solving, you get that small I, it will take values which are multiples of half h cut. That is, it is integral multiple of half h cut. So small I, which is the total angular momentum of a single nucleon, it will take the values which are integral multiple of half h cut. That is, it will be either half h cut or 3/2 h cut or 5/2 h cut and so on. Now is the case for the total angular momentum of the nucleus. So the total angular momentum of the nucleus, capital I, it also takes only two values which are equal to L plus S. So here is capital L plus capital S, as it was over here small l plus small s for the case of a single nucleon. But for the case of the whole nucleus, it will be either L plus S or it will be L minus S. So capital I will take only two values, which are capital L plus S or capital L minus S. Now capital L, this is the total orbital angular momentum of the nucleus, and capital S is the total spin angular momentum of the nucleus. Now small l, this was the orbital angular momentum of a one nucleon. Small s was the spin angular momentum of a single nucleon. But over here capital L will be the total angular momentum or total orbital angular momentum of nucleus, and capital S, it will be the total spin angular momentum of the whole nucleus. So capital L is the total orbital angular momentum of the nucleus and capital S is the total spin angular momentum of the nucleus. So capital I, which is the total angular momentum of the nucleus, is given by formula of capital L plus minus capital S. So capital I, this is equal to capital L plus minus S. We know that small l, it takes values which are integral multiples of h cut. So when the orbital angular momentum of all the nucleons, they will couple with each other and will result into capital L. So the capital L will also have integral values, that is, this will be also integral multiple of h cut, because the orbital angular momentum of every nucleon will couple with each other and there will be resultant capital L. Since small l takes values which are integral multiple of h cut, so capital L will also have the values which are integral multiples of h cut. Now is the case of the spin angular momentum, which is capital S. Here we know that small s, that is the spin angular momentum of one nucleon, it can take value only half h cut. And when these spins of a single nucleon, when these spins will couple with each other, then their total spin angular momentum of the nucleon will be capital S. And this capital S will be integral multiple, or you can say this will be the even integral multiple of half h cut. Even integral multiple of a half h cut means it can be either 0, then even integral means it can be 2h cut, 2 times half h cut, that will be simply 1 h cut. Then it can be, then the even number will be 4, so this will be 4 times half h cut, so this will be equal to 2 h cut. So this simply means that even integral multiple of half h cut means that it takes values 0, then h cut, then 2 h cut, then 3 h cut, and so on. So capital S will take values which will be even integral multiple of half h cut only when capital A, means the total number of nucleons which are present inside the nucleus, they are even. If the total number of nucleons present inside the nucleus is an even number, then the total spin angular momentum of the nucleus will be either 0 or h cut or 2h cut, 3h cut, and so on. Then this capital S will have values which will be odd integral multiple of half h cut. That is, first it can be just half h cut, then it will be 3 by 2 h cut, then it will be 5 by 2 h cut, and so on, which is the odd integral multiple of half h cut. So odd integral multiple of half h cut, capital S will take these values only when capital A, means the total number of nucleons present inside the nucleus, is odd. So these are the values which will be taken by capital S, and the capital S value, it depends upon if the number of nucleons present inside the nucleus is even or if it is odd. If the number of nucleons are even number, then the capital S will take values 0 or h cut or 2h cut or 3h cut, and so on. And if the number of nucleons present inside the nucleus is an odd number, then the capital S, it will take values half h cut, 3 by 2 h cut, 5 by 2 h cut, and so on. So capital I, so we know that capital L, it just takes integral multiple of h cut, so this will be just either 0, h cut, 2 h cut, and so on. So capital L will take integral multiples of h cut, but there is condition on capital S, and the conditions are shown over here. So capital I, what are the values which will be taken by capital I, which is the total angular momentum of the nucleus? So the values of capital I will be integral multiple. This will be integral multiple when, this will be integral multiple of h cut when capital A is even, that is number of nucleons present inside the nucleus is even, and this will be half integral multiple of h cut when capital A is odd. So these two conditions on capital I, these arise because there is a condition on capital S. So capital S takes integral values for even. So if capital S is also even and if capital S is also integral and capital L is integral multiple of h cut, then capital I will take values which are just integral multiples of h cut, and that happens when capital A, this is even. And similarly capital S has odd integral multiple of half h cut when capital A is odd, and capital L, this will be just integral multiple, so their sum and their subtraction will be half integral only in the case when capital A, that is the number of nucleons present inside the nucleus, is odd. The next property of the nucleus is parity. The parity of a nucleus, it can be either even or it can be odd. That is, it can be either +1 or it can be minus, or you can say it is either plus or it is minus. So the parity of the nucleus, it comes into account when the coordinates of the nucleus, they are inversed. We know that every quantum mechanical system is associated with the wave function which is given by psi of x, y, z. So every quantum mechanical system, and here this quantum mechanical system is the nucleus. We are talking about a nucleus over here. So nucleus is also a quantum mechanical system, and every such system is associated with a wave function, or a wave function is associated with every quantum mechanical system, and which is represented by psi. And this wave function, it depends upon three coordinates which are x, y, z. So this is the dependence of the wave function on the position coordinates. Now when these coordinates are inversed, means x is changed to minus x, then y is changed to minus y, and z is changed to minus z. So every nucleus is a quantum mechanical system, so there will be a wave function associated with this nucleus. Now the coordinates of this wave function of the nucleus are inversed, means the x is changed to minus x, y is changed to minus y, and z is changed to minus z. So now after the inversion of the coordinates, this is called as inversion of coordinates. Now after the inversion of coordinates in this wave function, how this wave function behaves, that is, what is the behavior of this wave function after the inversion of the coordinates, that will define the parity of the nucleus. So this wave function is the wave function of the nucleus, and upon inversion of coordinates, how this wave function of nucleus behaves, that will define the parity of the nucleus, if the parity of the nucleus is even or if it is odd. So on the inversion of coordinates, the wave function of the nucleus becomes minus x, minus y, minus z. That is, this wave function will depend upon minus x, minus y, and minus z. So now we have two wave functions. First is this initial wave function, which is the actual wave function of the nucleus, and then we changed the coordinates. We inversed the coordinates in this wave function, and we get another wave function which is given by this, which is represented by this. So now what is the relation between these two wave functions, that will decide the parity. Now if this wave function upon the inversion of coordinates if this wave function psi of minus x minus y minus z, if this is exactly equal to psi of x comma y comma z, that is there is no change when the coordinates of the wave function are inversed, if the wave function remains as it is, then the nucleus is said to have even parity. So the nucleus will be having an even parity if the wave function of the nucleus, it doesn't change and it is equal to the same wave function when the coordinates are inversed. So then the nucleus is said to have an even parity. Then if the wave function upon inversion of the coordinates is equal to minus of psi of x comma y comma z, so there is this difference of minus over here. So if the wave function upon inversion of coordinates is not the same as that of the actual wave function, but the relation is given by this formula, that is this is equal to minus of the actual wave function, then the nucleus of such wave function is said to have odd parity. So that nucleus will be having odd parity. The parity of a nucleus can also be found by using a formula. The parity of a particular nucleus, it can be found using a formula of minus 1 power capital L. So capital L is the orbital angular momentum of the nucleus. So capital L is the orbital angular momentum of the whole nucleus, and when you put the value of capital L, because we know that capital L will take only integral values, that is it can be either 0, 1, 2, 3. So we will put the integral value of capital L and then we will get either plus 1 or we will get minus 1 depending upon the value of capital L. So that will define the parity of the nucleus. So this formula is also for calculating the parity of a nucleus. So if the value comes out to be plus 1, so plus 1 will be for the case of capital L is equal to 0 or this is equal to 2, 4, 6, that is for the even numbers. So this will be even parity. And then if the value of this parity comes out to be minus 1, this will be for the case of capital L is. So if the parity of the nucleus using this formula, it comes out to be minus 1, then the parity of the nucleus is odd. The next property of the nucleus is the statistics. Statistics means what kind of statistics a nucleus follows. That is, there are two types of main statistics which are followed by fermions. First is the fermions, and fermions, they follow Fermi-Dirac statistics. So Fermi-Dirac statistics is followed by fermions, and the other statistics is the Bose-Einstein statistics, and this statistics is followed by the particles, and those particles are called as bosons. And the fermions, they have half integral spin, that is multiples of half h cut, and the bosons, they have integral spin. So fermions will be having multiple of half integral spin, that is if it will be half h cut, or it can be 3 by 2 h cut, or it can be 5 by 2 times h cut, and so on. So integral spin will be either 0, then h cut, then 2 h cut, 3 h cut, and so on. Now what kind of statistics is followed by the nucleus? So since we know that here we have talked about the spin, so the statistics of the nucleus will also be decided by its spin angular momentum. Now there is a little information that the total angular momentum of the nucleus is written by capital I vector. So capital I is the total angular momentum of the nucleus, and this is also called as the spin of the nucleus. So capital I is also given another name. This does not exactly mean the spin, but it is just given the name that capital I, which is the total angular momentum of the nucleus, this is also called as spin of the nucleus. So the spin angular momentum of the nucleus is a different thing, and this is capital S, and the spin of the nucleus is just a name which is given to capital I, which is the total angular momentum of the nucleus. So the statistics of the nucleus will be decided by the capital S, that is the spin of the nucleus. So if the spin of the nucleus is integral multiple, if it is integral multiple of h cut, that is, and this occurs, that is the integral multiple of h cut, it occurs only when the total number of nucleons which are present inside the nucleus is even. So in this case, when the total number of nucleons inside the nucleus is even, then the spin of the nucleus will be integral multiple of h cut, and hence such nucleus will follow Bose-Einstein statistics. And similarly, when the spin angular momentum of the nucleus is half integral multiple of half integral, then the nucleus that will follow Fermi-Dirac statistics. And this occurs when capital A, that is the number of nucleons present inside the nucleus, is odd. So this we have already covered, that S will take values 0, h cut, 2h cut, 3h cut, that is integral multiples of h cut only when capital A is even, and if this occurs, then the nucleus will follow Bose-Einstein statistics and the nucleus will behave as a boson. And if the nucleus has a spin angular momentum which is half integral, that is it is half h cut, 3 by 2 h cut, 5 by 2 h cut, and so on, then the nucleus that will follow the Fermi-Dirac statistics, and the nucleus will be called as a fermion.